In life, you know there's some moments when you have to stop and ask yourself, how did I get here? Like, why I'm standing here? Well, this is definitely one of those moments for me. I find myself going back to the beginning, back to my roots. I was born to incredible parents, amazing parents who served as daughter in the Indian Army. I was the firstborn. And as far back as I remember, I made my parents very proud and happy 99% of the time. Because like exaggeration of personal achievements are allowed from time to time. My brothers were born a few years later, and even then, nothing changed for me. We were born given equal opportunities, and I want to really emphasize this for you because I don't think a lot of people might understand that being equal might seem very normal. But where I come from, India, and a lot of developing countries around the world, more often than not, this is acceptance. It's actually a privilege. My first experience of the loving disparity between boys and girls came at a very, very young age. I grew up in a middle family with extremely philanthropic parents who constantly reminded me and my brother how lucky we were and how giving back to those who were less fortunate was not a choice, it was a way of life. Simple. I was 7 or 8 years old when my parents started taking me on these visits in traveling clinics to developing communities around and villages around the city we lived in Cornbury. We are back onto ambulance and my parents could provide medical care to people who couldn't afford it. My job at the age of 8 was assistant. So I worked out on the medicine put on below. I really took my job very seriously. But the more I went on the expedition, the more I began to notice that the similar things that distinguished a boy from a girl, or a man from a woman. For example, girls were pulled out of school when they hit puberty because they were considered ready for marriage and baby, the child and 30. While boys still enjoy their childhood, or basic human rights such as healthcare were denied just because they were women. Let's call this whole experience trigger number 1 for me. Fast forward a few years and many triggers in between. Like a producer director early on in my career, I must have about 18 or 19, telling me that if I didn't agree to the ridiculous term of painfully low salary in a movie, that he would just release me. Because girls are relatable in the entertainment business, that was a memorable one. Made me decide to make myself relatable. But I think that really moved the need for me ultimately led me to create for health and education, and around the same time partners with UNICEF were on encounters with my housekeeper's daughter. About 12 years ago, I came home from set early one day, and she sits in my library reading a book, and she must have been 8 or 9 years old, and I knew he loved reading, so I asked her, this weekday with aren't you in school? And she said, no, I don't know anymore. So I went and asked her mother, and I said, why isn't she in school? And her mom said that her family could afford to send her and her brother to school, so they two the boys. The reason, she would eventually get married, and it would be a waste of money. I was completely blown, and it shocked me to make her. Eventually, I decided to go for the course of her education so that she could continue to learn because education is a basic human right. And it is necessary, especially today. From the point on, I was determined to make a difference as many children's lives as could, in whatever big or small way that could contribute theirs. There's a really beautiful quote that I read recently. I think is absolutely appropriate to say. It's just what I'm trying to say today. The hand that rocks the cradle, the procreator, the mother of tomorrow, a woman shapes the destiny of civilization. Such is George's irony of it. The beautiful creation, such as a girl child, is today one of the greatest concerns facing humanity. Girls have the power to change the world. It's a fact, and yet today, girls are more likely than boys never to set foot in the classroom. Despite all the efforts and progress made the last 2 decades, knowledge education not just empowers families, but communities and economies. A research of her education would on do better. It's just as simple as that.